and then we'll go the other way. Yeah.
16.
How? You just chilled up off the ridge.
I'm probably gonna get ready to go bananas.
Watch the back. I'm gonna just sit down just to see. Is it hitting? It's really nice. Marina wool. It's nice. No one's wearing merino wool.
Yeah, they'll play well.
See ya.
Yeah, thanks.
Sí, señor.
Great week.
Thank you.
See you when you get up. Yeah, please have a good one, Marcy.
Thanks.
Maybe.
Hello and welcome to the PGA Championship Rain Show powered by T-Mobile. I'm Charlie Hume. Alongside me is Smiley Kaufman. And Smiley, all the action is underway here at Aronimink Golf Club. We are here on the T-Mobile range, thanks to T-Mobile's 5G network. And for the next hour, you and I are going to be watching some guys get warm up, talking a little bit about the action out there. How are we feeling thus far with the action underway?
Tell you what, just, these fans have showed up today. The roars have already been humming across the property. It's a cool day. It's low 60s. The wind is blowing out of the northwest today, which is a different direction as we saw yesterday out of the southeast. So I think just talking about the adjustment these players are going to have based off of the temperature change and then also the wind direction.
We got Aldrich Potgieter in the tie for first, Minwoo Lee, a number of other names. We've had some hole outs, Daniel Brown on the 11th hole and John Rahm at the second. So a lot of excitement going on. But we're going to start with the range itself. We have Akshay Bhatia out here on the T-Mobile range. We're going to take a look at Akshay prepping for the beginning of his round. So we'll get right to that as we kick off the day here.
It's interesting. Akshay Bhatia, he's similar to Justin Rose on how he does his warm-ups. I don't see it here, but most of the time he stacks 3 golf balls together at a time to make sure that he doesn't overhit before the round. So he'll set up whether it be 4 wedges and then 4 8-irons and then 4 6-irons. I asked him why he did that, so that he didn't do too much. Now clearly today he's not doing this, but I think it's a good practice for anybody that's trying to get ready for a big round. It's easy to want to try to get your game perfect, whether it's before a PGA Championship or if it's before a men's league match back home for you. But I do like that in the warm up. Yesterday we saw the range being down off the right. Today we're seeing it looks like a little left to right. So that's more favorable, I'd say, for a lefty.
Can you talk about that's actually interesting to unpack? So we were here yesterday. We were watching Bryson DeChambeau just grinding. I think we watched him for about a half hour, and he had one club out the entire time. And of course, it changes on a day where you're out in the course playing a practice round, but you have a full day of practice if you want to get that in prior to the competition. How do those routines change when you're just trying to warm up for a major championship competitive round?
Well, I think it just changes based off of tee time. So if in the morning, golf ball is not going to travel quite as far, so you're really trying to get dialed into how far the golf ball's going, especially on a cool morning like today that it was. But in the afternoon, gets a fraction warmer. We're still in the low 60s, but just think about where these PGA Tour players have been playing, right? They were in Miami, very, very hot. Quail Hollow was also pretty warm too. So that's a part of everybody's routine these days, is that they want to make sure they know how far a pitching wedge is going today in these conditions. Same with their longer irons. And then you think about the golf course too, right? Like, what have we seen from watching the PGA Championship in round 1? We have seen hole locations that are tucked on corners of greens, on top of shelves, to where you have to be so exacting. So, it starts here at the range. You have got to know how far your golf ball is going. And then you throw in this too, Charlie. Like we talked about, the conditions and making sure you hit your number. But also, think about this. Uphill shots, right? You can't see the bottom of the flag on a lot of these shots. So when you're over the golf ball, there's a lot of trust to know that, especially for back hole locations with elevated shots into greens, that you're not going to end up coming up long. So that's something that you just really have to dial in before the round.
We had about a quarter inch of rain overnight, and so not a ton of rain, but enough to where it was a little soft this morning. In fact, speaking of a little diversion here to the merch tent, I had to go get a new pair of socks because I walked down the left side of one in the rough and soaked them completely and had to go swap those out. So
I actually think you stepped in a puddle. I don't believe you.
Well,
I think you did it on purpose.
There might have been a little calculation there. I did see Gabby Herzig walking into the media center with a pair of socks, and I thought that's the move I need to make.
So you literally just you took your shoes off, walked in a puddle, and just made this excuse for another reason.
Oh no, I got to buy another pair of another item from the merch store. So here we are. We have dry socks. We're happy about that. But it was wet this morning as a result of that rain overnight. And I think there were a couple really interesting hole locations, 10, 11. 11 we talked about a lot, where if you have too much spin on that hole, you can bring that not only down to the lower shelf, but all the way off that green with a 60-yard shot back in to try to save par. And I saw, to open the broadcast, with that kind of back left hole location, Patrick Cantlay hit one that ended up on the fringe back of the green, but just had a little too much spin and did come down that front shelf. Minwoo Lee took it a little bit lower, had a kick in for birdie. What are you seeing in the way that the course is playing thus far this morning, and how do you expect it to change over the course of the day?
Well, I think the quarter of an inch of rain definitely helps a little bit, but still, when you saw players miss the fairways today in the rough, there was a penalty.
Yes.
I think there was a bit of a narrative about how the rough was patchy, but when you think about elevated greens, where most of them feel like they are at times, and just not as much elevated as far as just playing uphill, but more so the greens are raised up. So there you have fall-offs on each side. So when you're landing it on the green, it seems to be falling off of all sides. Classic Donald Ross type of stuff. So what I did see, though, is that being in the fairway was such a priority with wedges. There was a couple hole locations, like the third hole over on the right side of the green, where if you're not in the fairway, you're just playing for par. And I think that's it speaks to why the design of this golf course is so good and why it's testing the best players in the world, and why you only see the lead at 3 under right now.
We're going to get a look at some top tracer action here with Akshay in a second to see exactly. We were talking about those numbers, the launch monitor he's using to get dialed in. We'll get a look at that here. We looked at the forecast yesterday, and it looked like Thursday was going to be the windiest day. So if you have a back hole location that is harder to get to when it's softer, it all of a sudden becomes easier as the day changes, right? As the greens dry out a little bit, and you can't, it's
Yes.
less about controlling spin there, right?
Yes, but then on the other side of the coin, right, if you're in the rough and the greens get firmer with wedges, the golf balls aren't going to be holding maybe quite as well as they did in the morning. But still, you have to be playing from the fairway. It's generous off the tee. There's a lot of tee shots that have, close to 40 yards of room. The 18th fairway is one of those. The 11th fairway is one of those. So they're giving you room, but there's no first cut. So it goes from fairway to primary rough. So it's, you have to be very accurate. But when we look at Akshay Bhatia and just his action, he's a guy that really likes to fade the golf ball, especially with his irons. And he can move it both ways with his irons. I think there's this, bit of a narrative that he only cuts it. He can move it left to right, and that's something that he's worked hard on, but he has to do it with setup. He spoke with us recently about this with this driver. If he needs to turn one, let's say he wants to ride the wind left to right, or let's say he wants to get to a right hole location and hold something, he does it with setup, which I love. He gets a little bit more tilted to hit a draw with his spine angle, and then he's going to throw his forearms a little bit more. So he's going to roll them through impact, and I think that's something that players, you gotta play to what your DNA is, and then just make adjustments off of that. If your shot's a cut, well, let's just find ways to change the arc in the bottom of your swing. So if you need to hit a draw, you don't feel like you're reinventing the wheel to do it.
We're going to head next to Hideki Matsuyama.
Oh, yes.
Love some Hideki action. I first of all, I wonder if he's got some pancakes out there.
Yeah,
a
well,
little pancakes in a big
my
bowl.
question is he hitting his one-handed wedge shots that he always starts the day with?
Well, this is. I saw a video of him playing 9 holes to warm up, which I think he shot 3 or 4 under, and it was classic. Like the first hole, you see the shot he hits, and he one-hands it, and then he's got 8 feet for birdie. It's just hilarious.
So, Wyndham Clark's a T-Mobile ambassador. I recently spoke with him, as you see Wyndham Clark right there.
There he is.
Just
Good
to
timing.
confirm that he is with T-Mobile. I asked him about Hideki, and I was like, all right, so when you see his club his hand come off the club, when exactly do you know whether it's a good shot or bad shot? And he said that for the most part, if he misses the center of the face, that's
Yes.
when he always takes his hands off the club, and that's the times he hits it 6 feet, and we're like, oh, okay, classic Hideki. He just wants to hit the middle of the face. He said Wyndham said he's watched Hideki hit it 30 yards offline, but it was in the middle of the face, and he kept his hands on the club. So it's just a guy that wants to hit the middle and flush it, and who can blame him?
Can you talk about just that feel that we saw him rehearsing there? It looked almost like he had a 10-finger, a split grip there, but just like that sort of pull down and the follow through there. What do you think he might be working on?
Hideki, his golf swing gets at times a fraction laid off at the top. He's got a ton of set in the club right off the ball, which I love, and it's a reason why he's been such a good iron player and a good wedge player, as you see him rehearse that. But as you can see there, he's just trying to maintain that shaft angle all the way down through impact. That pause has probably got a little bit less pronounced over the years. It really sat up there like he, was holding a kitchen plate at the top of his backswing early in his career. A little bit more a la Cam Young, but he's still just, the strength of his game is his approach play, which is why I think so many people think Hideki's going to have a good week this week.
Look, he's got the boxing glove head cover there, a nod to the city of Philadelphia, Rocky, things of that nature. The way Hideki's game sets up for this course, I mean, it's not like he's short, but he's not one of the longer guys on tour, but he's a phenomenal iron player, right?
Yes.
And one of the best around the green.
Yes.
Which is going to be huge given some of these gnarly lies you're going to get, especially if you're short-sided or you're long on the green. And then the putting, it's you just never know what you're going to get. You can get really pop weeks from Hideki where he rolls it great, and then he's usually in contention or winning the thing. What do you expect from him this week in terms of the way Aronimink sets up for his game?
It sets up so well because of how much control he has with his wedges. Just think about where he's won most recently. He won the Hero World Challenge over in the Bahamas. That place is just a driver wedge fest. And then also just think Kapalua, where he set the scoring record. And I just remember all the wedge shots that he hit that week, where there's just so much control. And this angle is so good to watch. A player of how he hits wedges. He's one that typically opens his stance up a little bit. He puts the ball position back. He has a shorter arm swing, and he's really on top of it with his chest through the shot, where the ball is on the face longer, and the ball's not shooting up. It's the best wedge players are low launch, high spin. You don't want to be the other way, and the reason for that is on firm greens, you do not want a golf ball that launches high and goes further than you think. Next thing you know, you're in a back bunker out here over the green. So I just love his ability to work wedges both ways. Just, if he needs to draw it, he can do it. If he needs to fade it, like he needs to at 3 today, he can do that as well.
Can you talk about the different ways? Because there are a lot of different methods to have a wedge game on tour. A lot of different methodologies. And some guys like a clock system. Some guys like to change arm speed. You kind of talked a little bit about Hideki's setup. What do you see as maybe the 2 or 3 main ways that guys like to think about how they can hit a wedge to a certain specific number?
That's such an interesting question. Inside of, I would say, 75 to 80 yards, I go based off of feel. And what I typically do with my 60 is just slightly open the face a little bit more, to where I feel like my arm swing could still be a little bit longer, which helps me to be able to have a little bit more tempo and feel, and less rigid in the transition. I think you see a lot of players, do that, but sometimes you got to be able to flight a draw from 70 yards, and that time you got to keep the face a little stronger and keep the swing a little bit shorter. But we had an interesting conversation with Keegan Bradley recently. And he sets up his whole game and his iron numbers based off of his 92-yard lob wedge. And so that feel for him is about a 3/4 swing. And he is able to take that 92-yard swing and makes the same swing throughout the bag, all the way up, to his last iron. Let's say it's a 4-iron. And he charts out those numbers. And then from there, he'll make a little bit less of swing. Let's say is a 3/4 swing is going this far. Well, let's go a little bit less than that. And he builds it off his 60 degree and then works his way up. And I think it's a great way for people to not overcomplicate the game. And it gives you more versatility with numbers, to where, sometimes you're downwind to a front pin. Well, that's a time where you're going to want to hit something hard with more spin versus, hey, you're going to have shots out here today to back hole locations. Let's say the 11th hole.
Yes.
And let's say you're 100 yards away. Well, of course, you're not going to want to hit the high launch, high spin shot here. You might want to be going 2 more clubs up to, let's say that normal numbers of lob wedge at a 60 degree. You could be hitting a 52 degree, and it could be your, the swing that's barely just getting to your chest high here. So I think a lot of guys do it in different ways. Bryson DeChambeau would probably be in that bucket. Keegan does the same thing. Where other guys, just kind of know their numbers based off of, just feel, and they don't overcomplicate it based off their the clock system.
It's so interesting to see the different ways these guys get it done out here. Everyone has a little bit of their own quirk and a little of their own, and no club where that comes more into play than the short game with wedges, both approaches and around the green. As we continue to watch Hideki here warm up, I just want to take a look at the leaderboard together and names for you on this current leaderboard that are popping as guys that either they've had a great start to the tournament, or you feel like they can really stick around and make a run this weekend.
Well, it's a good mix of players that hit it long off the tee, and then also players that are very accurate. When you look at the top 3 names on the board currently, Aldrich Pocketer, he's a player that hits it very long, but he's been the best putter in the field this week. He's gained more than 5 strokes putting. You got Steven Yeager. He's also somebody that sends it off the tee, but his around the green and short game has been phenomenal today. Minwoo Lee, he's been a player that's, of course, long but trending this year. Bud Cauley, not very long but deadly accurate, and he has been the best iron player in the field today. And then Dan Brown, when you asked me this, I was actually walking. You asked me about the Mount Rushmore of fans that you think the Philly fans would cheer for this week, and I almost said Dan Brown, but I didn't know if he was in the field, so he would have made the list. So just so you know, he's an asterisk on the Mount Rushmore of players that Philly fans need to root for, because Dan Brown is an electric factory.
You were walking in and texting us and saying, hey, there was some roars out here. What just happened? And, that 11th hole everyone's talking about? Why it's so hard and it's got a tough in location. Yeah, Dan just pulled out. Just hit it a little bit left and just spun it back right in the hole. No big deal. Simple stuff out here.
Yeah, but I think the big name on the leaderboard at the top, and it was Xander Schauffele. He's been pretty dialed in today, driving it very well off the tee. And really, he's made a bogey recently, but driver's been good. Iron game has been solid. Brooks Koepka and Jordan Spieth also in a decent spot, also coming off some bogeys at the 3rd hole. But it's a bit of a mix of the leaderboard right now that I'm super intrigued. It's very packed. It's very bunched together. This is going to be one where, especially seeing that you expect that the morning scores you would have thought would have been the lower scores of the day. If 4 under is leading this golf tournament, it's going to be a very, very tight cut to where you might only be 6 or 7 shots back of the lead based off what we're seeing in the early goings.
I'm intrigued by seeing Cam Smith's name up the top of the leaderboard after a number of majors where he admittedly showed up this week and said it's not up to my standard. He made a change with his instructor, I believe, even with Claude Harmon III, who's out on the same tour as he plays with Dustin Johnson often. So that's another name, a former major winner, guy who's won some big time tournaments who could be flashing this week. Next, we're headed to the range to look at Sungjae Im swing. Ooh. Another guy who's got some interesting action, pauses, very methodical player. What do you like about his game? And he's had showed some form this season as well.
Yes, he had a wrist injury earlier this to start the year. He's typically a player that plays just about every week, and when he came back from injury, he was able to get it going straight away. He recently brought back Josh Gregory, who's somebody who's helped him with his game in the past. So starting back, not only working with the short game, Josh has been able to help him with another coach back home with his full swing. And you go back and look at Sungjae Im, and his numbers this year, I think we all think about Sungjae as being a very accurate player. He's a very good driver of the golf ball, and you would assume that he was a very good iron player, considering that he's been to the Tour Championship every single season that he's been on the PGA Tour. But the thing with Sungjae is that his iron game was very, very off last year. He was around 175th in strokes gained approach last year. And so how has Josh Gregory and Sungjae gone about fixing this? Sungjae is a player who's a tilter, somebody that his spine angle gets too far back at impact. And how they fix this is with proper backswing mechanics. So they've worked on the backswing with the face being a little bit stronger, not getting quite as open, but also working on getting his hands a little bit more deep in the backswing. So if you watch here with Sungjae, he obviously has a good setup here. This looks to be about a 3-iron hybrid. Very slow takeaway, but he wants to get those hands a little bit deeper in his backswing. And from there, if anything, just try to eliminate that tilt back to where that right shoulder gets a little bit low, left shoulder gets a little bit high, down near impact. And from there, you would have to have a lot of throw and a lot of save versus having a lot more chest rotation to keep that club face a little bit more stable. And if anything, like his misses last year were a lot of spinny right shots. And it's funny, his caddy, Willie Wilcox, who oftentimes, it seems like Willie would think that when he makes the adjustment, he's a player that can ride a feel throughout an entire golf tournament when he gets it. But sometimes it's tough for him to make that adjustment. So when you think about Sungjae this week, and a player that's been working on something in his game for, gosh, you go back to, around March time, so a couple months now, it should be fairly comfortable for him. So you find that he'll hit a lot of fairways, iron game's going to improve, and then Sungjae Im has always been a player who's been a good wedge player and a good putter, and typically he's kind of in that top 10 in birdie average.
We were headed next to arguably the greatest Ryder Cup captain of all time, Luke Donald, man who's aged like fine wine. He's the next looking we'll do here on the T-Mobile range. So with Luke, we can talk about, of course, the captaincy that looms at Adair Manor, and not this year but next. Another PGA of America, of course, is one half of that. The DP World Tour, the other half. But for his playing prospects this week, I mean, is this a guy you could see make a little bit of, I don't want to call it a Cinderella run, because at one time he's former world number one, but is this a guy that could be a dark horse?
Well, he's a busy man, right? Like,
he's got a few things he's got to take care of.
Yeah, he's recently already taken his a trip to Adair Manor to check it out. I'm sure already doing some scouting there. And why wouldn't you do a little scouting at Adair Manor? Because that is one of the best places to stay in the world.
Can we get on a scouting trip to Adair Manor?
Yes,
we're open for that. If anyone wants to send us on a scouting trip to Adair Manor, we're open for business.
With Luke Donald, I assume that Luke would be some form of an exemption for the week. Because I can't imagine that he got in via top 100.
Yeah, we have to look at that category.
But anyways, let's talk a little bit about Luke Donald's game. This is going to be a good fit for him. This is not a overly big ballpark outside of the par threes and that closing finish. But I've noticed with Luke, I'm not sure exactly the coach he's been working with. I saw it recently on Instagram that he's been grinding on his game, and it's been working on the backswing and trying to get the position at the top a little bit more stable. And I think it's giving him a little bit more room.
Is that Mark Blackburn right there? Do we have that? No.
It is Mark Blackburn.
How about that?
Yeah, there you go. He's
well, and talking about instruction here, obviously, like Mark has done. We talked to him earlier this year about 4 of his different players that have all played exceptionally well. What is his? I know a lot of his approaches. It's different for every player. Sort of thing he hangs his hat on, right? What might he be working on here with Luke? And then maybe talk a little bit about the work Mark's done with some guys in the field this week who could potentially win this thing.
Well, I mean, the list goes on and on, right?
It's a long list
Mark.
at this point.
we might not have time in this hour covering this range show. But Luke's the guy who's obviously one of the best putters in the world. His short game is phenomenal. For him, it's about, can you keep the ball in front of you? Can you just eliminate those outlier misses, find the greens as much as you possibly can? And if he does, he can out-putt anybody in this field. That's how strong he is with the putter. But just seeing kind of what he's working on, it looks a lot like posture, trying to get his pelvis pushed down a little bit to keep it back hip just a little bit more raised in his setup. And based on what I could tell as well is that he's trying to keep the backswing a little bit steeper, not obviously being able to talk to Blackburn yet, just watching a couple rehearsals here. And all the time players are trying to create a setup that will help them create the feel that they're trying to get in their golf swing, whether it's a shot shape. You can see there he's working on a little tilt.
Yep.
But we can overcomplicate this game so much, but oftentimes it comes down to is, can you just have good setup over the golf ball? And especially when I don't play a ton of golf, it's all about setup and fundamentals, and from there, for the most part, I can hit it somewhat where I'm looking if I have good rhythm.
Well, and all the way through the green, right? Like setup with putting is another thing we've talked to a number of players about, of just, hey, you've had this huge jump in strokes gained putting. What's it come down to? Just have been more consistent with my setup. In fact, this is something you told us about your own game when you watched him hooping this past week.
Yeah, it's something I try to do, and I actually saw my short game coach here this week, James Seekman.
Shout out. I was
telling him, it's like, you know how hard it is to not play golf for 3 weeks and then go and try to chip one over a bunker with an into the grain. Why? He's like, well, you need to start putting your sticks down and working. I was like, James, I get to my tee time 8 minutes before. I don't have time to go and do all this work. And he's like, you can do it at home. And I was like, I know I can. And I was like, but when the kids go down for bed, it's not easy.
Let's talk about another one of Mark Blackburn's star pupils, Matt Fitzpatrick. And just, they've done so much work. It's been transformational since Matt Fitzpatrick won the U.S. Open at Brookline. and just the direction where he was on the spectrum at that point with his golf swing, where he was speed chasing, he was hitting these bomb draws off the tee, and that sort of bled into his approach game. It bled into his short irons, and it bled into his wedges, and they had to make some corrections there. So can you just explain first and foremost what Mark Blackburn's done with Matt Fitzpatrick to kind of get him into the form that he's shown really since the PGA of last year into this year, and his prospects this week to win?
It's the 1 year anniversary of when Matt Fitzpatrick's back. You know,
Yes.
when we were in at Quail Hollow in the media center last year on Friday, watching the coverage and seeing Fitzpatrick in the top 5, we're like, wait, Fitzpatrick is he found something here in his game? And you know, since hiring Mark Blackburn after Augusta National last year, you know, he's been able to improve his game to be one of the best players in the world. You know, when he had hired him, he was around 75th, 80th in the world. And he's all the way up, of course, inside. I think he's in the top 5 in the world at this point. You know, he's had 3 wins coming in to the PGA Championship. You know, based on how he's played at this point, you expect that he's going to contend for another major. Could be this week. But just about what they've been able to accomplish in their golf swing, as we see who he's paired with Justin Rose,
another group, another Mark Blackburn guy.
You know, Justin Rose made some equipment changes this week. I know that's something that he's been working hard on, and of course Scottie Scheffler. But Fitzpatrick has really worked hard on also setup. Mark Blackburn had said that Fitzpatrick's arms are very, very long compared to his torso. So they're always trying to retract his arms to keep him a little bit more connected. Again, this is a setup thing he's working on. But Fitzpatrick's a very, very high IQ, and he can interpret information maybe more so than any other golfer out here when it comes to the numbers. And when you ask Mark a high-level explanation of what they're working on, even myself, who understands things like to the highest degree, I think I can talk shop with anybody. And I finished up that conversation. I was like, guys, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that again because it is so high level. But it's, you know, when they have this 3D technology and able to get all these wires on you, and it's a reason why Mark is considered the best coach in the world today, is that they're able to dive and get so granular in the little things. And I think Fitzpatrick, his entire career, has been able to you know, not be the, you know, a big strong guy. You know, he's 6 foot tall. You know, he's not the modern looking athlete, but he's intelligent, he's smart, he puts a good team around him, and he's got all the talent in the world as far as just his ability to get the golf ball in the hole.
Okay, you ready for this, Smiley? This is very appropriate because we're at an event where PGA of America professionals are playing in the field, and we're doing a web of instructors here. So we just did Mark Blackburn. We're going to go back to Josh Gregory, who worked with Sungjae Im, and now we're going to look at JJ Spaun on the range here, a guy who, when JJ Spaun and Josh Gregory linked up, that kind of paved the way for him to win the U.S. Open last year at Oakmont, a thrilling finish there. So let's talk about, I mean, you and JJ are obviously close. You've done a lot of work with him, just understanding his game and the changes he's made. What have you? Let's maybe back it up all the way to the beginning of last year. He had some good finishes in Hawaii. What was it that he worked on with Josh Gregory and the rest of his team that became the recipe for success that led to his first major win?
Well, JJ Spaun has always been an elite ball striker. He's a very, very disciplined player. It typically hits a fade most every shot, although I've watched him work it right to left more so in the last year than maybe he did earlier in his career. But the work that him and Adam Schreiber and Josh Gregory have done, Adam Schreiber being his full swing coach, they don't miss a shot that JJ Spaun hits in competition or on the range. His team is right there making sure that he is always dialed in. But this year, it was a tough start to the year for JJ. He's dealt with whether it be just some sickness to start the year, to where it's kind of taken him out of events, missing some cuts that you wouldn't expect him to miss. And then all of a sudden, he had a weekend in San Antonio where he was able to kind of finally put it all together. And speaking with Adam Schreiber, it was around the Players' Championship where they really found something in his golf swing. And it's about, for him, not getting too lateral in transition and making sure that if you're looking at down the line, that his left hip stays rotating and he stays in his posture. And when he does, the club exits. You know, there's Adam Schreiber right there. Like he said, he does not miss a shot. It just keeps the club on that plane through the shot. And when it does, JJ, it's a machine. It is unbelievable how accurate he is, which is why I think a lot of people like him this week. I would say that, looking at his results, it definitely feel like he could be a player that could win this week. But it still comes down, I think, to the putter for JJ. If he can be a little bit better inside of 10 feet. I think that's been a little bit of the reason why he hasn't, played as well this year, especially in his missed cuts. But his golf swing's definitely trending.
Can you talk about the drill he's doing right here? This is super interesting, where he's hovering the club head above the ball, moving it forward, I assume on the path he wants to kind of exit impact with, and then taking it back and hitting it. What do you think he's trying to work on here? See if he does it again. I didn't do it there, but
there you go.
Yeah, but there was
that's a good pause drill though.
Yeah.
I didn't see what you were talking about earlier, but let me watch one more here with JJ.
He kind of hovered up. He moved the club head forward, and then he took it back and swung through.
So what he's doing right here though is this is a classic pause drill that a lot of players will work on, and what he's trying to figure out here is getting the proper sequence out of the top. Players, when they feel the most free is when they feel like the golf club sits and pauses at the top of the golf swing. When a lot of players get off is when the golf club at the top doesn't quite settle down. And when it's still moving, that's when you're sequencing where you start with your arms and your upper body out.
Okay, look, here's the drill we're talking about here. Not to take you off track, but see this, and then he kind of comes back through.
Yeah, that's just a drill to help promote rotation into your right hip on the way back. So if a player feels like they're not able to load their hips properly, you can put the club out in front of you to create the momentum to load it into that right side a little bit cleaner. And JJ's always been a very rotary player, and so just creating that momentum and it, it's just if you're gonna jump to the right, you have to jump left first with your weight. So it's just kind of creating that momentum shift.
That's so interesting. And then to get back to what you were saying about the pause drill, that the importance there, right, is what you're talking about, the sort of sequencing and the matching of you don't want your hips or your hands to get too far ahead of the other one, because then you're going to have a left or right mix.
It's just starting ground up. So when you have that club sitting at the top, from there you can start to feel just that momentum and pressure shifting into your left foot, and from there you start to push up to where your left hip starts to rotate, and then from there all the energy gets transferred for your torso to your shoulders all the way to your hands, and then last but not least the club head. And I think so many amateurs and so many people I've played with in the past, they do it the opposite way. They get to the top of their golf swing, they don't have a good pause, and the first thing that happens is the club head moves, their arms move, and then from there their hips have to stall, and what happens from there? Early extension. And guess what? The hosel gets a little exposed, and I'm not going to look at anybody to my left, but sometimes it might happen to this guy over here.
We've been known to have a few little hosel exposure, especially in the short game of late. We're gonna figure that out. And I tell you what, I hope if you all are at home watching this on the PGA Championships YouTube, I hope you've liked and subscribed and send this to your friends, because I'm jotting down. I mean, this is a treasure trove of instructional content here. We're watching the best in the world go through it here on the T-Mobile range, and there's a lot of actionable insights here. And speaking of T-Mobile, this is a guy we're going to watch next who you talked to yesterday in Club Magenta, Max Homa. And how about another Mark Blackburn pupil?
Another Mark Blackburn pupil.
Let's start right there. What is he working on with Mark Blackburn?
Mark. I think Mark has gotten Max into a position now to where it's more so about just keeping Max positive.
Yeah.
With Max's game, he's been swinging the golf club better. I think as a player, you're always trying to get to a position where you feel like it's automatic. You're playing with freedom. And Max has, been working his way back. He had a good week at the first major this year at Augusta National, and I think that positivity from, feeling like you're around the hunt at a major championship is going to serve him well here at this major. Where again, what is his strength? It's his iron play, and he needs to lean into that, as this is a golf course that you have to be a very good iron player.
What did you talk to with Max and Wyndham Clark yesterday in Club Magenta? I mean, what all did you cover, or that you found of interest to just get into their headspace ahead of this major?
Well, they talked a lot about just with the chipping around the greens, and this is something that I hadn't picked up until speaking with these two, is that there's first cut around the greens, that when you think about this golf course with raised greens, all the runoffs on the side, it makes for very tricky chips around the green, especially when you get into that first cut. Because if you're chipping, into the slope, you either have to drive something in as a bump and run, and then make sure you don't hit it too hard or don't have the same shot again. Or you might want to try to play something up and over and with some spin. But when you think about this first cut, it's a very the blade of the grass is very long, and it's much longer than most first cuts these players have. So if you have it sitting down or even sitting up, it's a very much a challenge. And Max Homa described it as chipping with the head cover on. And so when you think about that, it's, you know, especially with these little short shots, you're so concerned about it coming out hot that you're kind of giving it a little bit less, you know, almost decelerating to make sure you don't hit it too hard. But on the other side of the coin, you don't want to hit the same shot again, because all of these around the greens is going to come right back to your feet. So it's very, very touchy around the greens.
And are you talking about there, because I'm curious, I think it was on the third or fourth hole this morning where I saw Ben Griffin, who was in the rough, not kind of on the short mode areas around the green, but in the rough, and trying to kind of get through the ball, leaves it back in the rough on the second shot. He was short side to a pin on the left side of that green. And just thinking about the difficulty, you talked about, I think what you were describing to start was if you're underneath the hole and underneath the green, right? And you're talking about bumping it into the hill and into the front of the green, or flying spin.
Anything, within a 20-foot range out of that first cut, when you have an up and an up to an up to a down, it's very, very tricky.
And what do guys change setup here? Do they go to more bounce? Is there a type of grind, or
well, Max said he tried about every single way he knows how to chip, and he said he's never tried to change so many things before a tournament started to try to figure out how to chip out of the first cut. And I did it the other night in our live from segment where I was trying to hit this bump and run 56 degree. So I was, to answer your question, I deferred down to my 56. My highest degree wafted wedge is a 60, so I went to the 56, which is more bounce for me. And even then, I hooded it, and it still felt like I chipped it with a head cover on. It just came out so slow.
Well, it's got to be nightmarish, again, missing long, above the hole, and the outcomes are, I either catch this too clean, it rolls off the front, I got 6 yards coming back up the hill, or I'm still in the rough in the next shot.
I know, it's a challenge. But I think for Max, though, it's all about staying positive. He's a player that I think Mark has spoken to me about, and that once he gets to a point to where he can do all the things mechanically, he can ride that feeling out as well as any other player that he coaches.
So it looks like the carry here on this club is about, we're actually watching a shot here on the top tracer range, about 140, 142 yards. 9-iron or pitching wedge, do you think he's in here?
Yeah, the wind is just left to right here. So this is probably, just based off of what I'm seeing, most likely this is going to be a pitching wedge here for Max. But I will say that it is a cooler day, so we very well could be a 9-iron.
Yeah, and it looks like Mark Blackburn. He's out of frame here on the view we're looking at, but it looks like Mark's popped over to give a few words of encouragement to Max. What I think and you talked about it there, about it, a lot of this stuff being mentality based, not necessarily technically based. What will it take for Max to get back to the form that that we saw, where he's winning some signature events, some big venues like Rib, or he's on Ryder Cup teams? I mean, is it really just boiled down to belief?
I think so. I think Max is. He's had some very high highs and some low lows, but I think Max has always been one of the more, just from a work ethic standpoint, he works harder than anybody.
Yeah.
He wants it so badly, but I think he sometimes is too hard on himself. And if he could sometimes just find, just not overreacting to things that go poorly, and just remembering it's like my good is good enough to be in contention here at a major championship, and he very well could play himself back into being a top 10 player in the world. But you're not going to do it if you overreact to shots, and then you're always down on yourself. So I think with Max, he's proven this year that he's taken the steps forward to be able to do this.
Look, here's Mark Blackburn getting in here, working on something. What do you think? It looks like that's the way he wants the club head to exit.
Yes, it's more so he's, Max would not be asking him a question. For the most part, players before the round, coaches are there just in case. Just in case, hey, I'm trying to hit my fade, and for some reason, it's turning over a little bit. Can you help me with just a feel? And Max is probably saying, I get to impact and through the ball, and for whatever reason, it just feels like the club head is turning over. And so right now, maybe Max is, or Mark Blackburn is saying, like, all right, through the ball here, let's talk about what the hands and the club need to feel like through the shot. And looks like to here, it's more so about not letting that club head turn over.
And what is that? I mean, obviously, I think anyone at home will face leaving open.
He's a
That's
fader.
probably more of a cut, cut shot.
He's
shape.
a fader.
He's releasing
So
a little bit too much.
This might be a specific shot that he wants to hit here today. So let's think about a shot like the third hole today. It's a hole location on the back right corner of the green, and it's a shot that you want to aim 10 to 15 feet left of it and hit a little hold fade. So if Max Homa is sitting here on the range with that exact club that he thinks he's going to have in, and he's not seeing the results that he wants, he may ask Mark,
Look
like,
at
all right,
that.
help me create this feel so I can make sure I get it right.
That's so interesting the way he's kind of just laying that off back there. I mean, is it? I know you're just guesswork here, but I mean,
no, it's based on what I can just see the motion that Max
Yeah.
made. I think he feels like he's a fraction underneath,
Okay.
and he wants to be a little bit more on top of it,
Yep.
but then also hold the face through.
That's so interesting. I'll tell you what, on the topic of wedge play, I saw some really nice bunker work from Cam Homa earlier this week. Just down there with the sand wedge, really exposing the bounce there, just really kind of laying that thing flat.
He was over in Club Magenta over on the 15th hole. Him and I were speaking, and I asked him, I said, hey, what, as a dad, when vibes are low in the car, sometimes you got to find some songs that keep the vibes high. Like, what do you have to put on for Cam to make sure that there's no meltdowns? And he said that for the most part they go Moana. That's like what that's his go-to. It's like, I'll go Moana. So I can't imagine if he's listening to music before the round that he's got a great playlist to go to. If he's like any other dad, just like me, most likely, like for me, I have the songs that I'm going to be playing as a girl dad. A lot of Disney princess songs, a lot of Frozen. I definitely have some Moana, but here for Max, heading to the tee, we might be listening to The Rock and Moana.
Listen, first of all, the year-end wrap for anyone who has children looks like a minefield. You have no idea what's going on. Moana's definitely good vibes. I wouldn't hate that as a tune-up for a major championship. We do a lot of electric music at our house. That kind of keeps the kids going a little bit. There's like a DJ Lenny Pierce, that remixes kids songs with a little bit of extra energy to it. So if you're out there looking for something like that, there's your hot tip.
Well, looks like he's figured it out, by the way.
Yeah, he does. I mean, seeing that left to right shot shape, and but I think it's so interesting to think about these guys as human beings as well, and just even if he's a guy who feels like he's pressing and is working hard and wanting to win, having Cam and the rest of the family here this week and feeling that lift that's got to be a very cool feeling and a memory made no matter what the outcome of the tournament is.
Yeah, Cam's his roommate. He said, like for the most part, if they're getting hotel rooms, like Max and Cam share a room, and so him and Cam do a lot of things together, and it's fun to talk to these guys who I've been friends with forever, going through the same things in same stages of life, but when it comes to getting ready for golf tournaments, as soon as you get here, you got to get your mind ready to play.
Okay, so Max is also known for something else on social media, swing roasting, okay?
Yeah.
And apparently we have the ability to do that right here with the help of T-Mobile's 5G network. We're asking you all out there right now watching
We're not
this live
roasting
stream.
you, right?
We might not be roasting. I think we're going to be maybe analyzing, maybe
Okay.
I don't know if we're going to illustrating today, maybe soon.
We'll
but
have to see if we're roasting.
well, that's depends on how good the swing is.
Yeah.
It could be a roast, could be a compliment. Text us your swing. The phone number is 564-999-8248. Again, that's 564-999-8248. And T-Mobile's 5G network. Look, we've got a producer over here, Lawrence, who's holding up the phone right now. He's receiving these videos. We're going to pull up some swings here. Let Smiley break them down.
I love it.
You're scrolling through the leaderboard here. How about Minwoo Lee, now solo lead at 4 under?
Yeah, Minwoo Lee, 4 under par. He's going to be finishing on the front nine, so he plays the 8th hole, which is it's been one of the most difficult holes on the golf course today to finish, but then he's got a par 5 on the 9th to where if he makes a bogey, he can get it back with a birdie at 9. But 4 under par potentially could be the low round this morning, which if you would have asked me at the beginning of the week, I would have expected to see something around 7 under would have been the guess. So that wind is definitely a factor out there, and guys are doing their best just to keep it going here.
All right, are you ready for the best potential potentially the best screensaver in all of golf. We're just going to put this on and just let it wash over us. We're going to Adam Scott now on the range.
Ooh.
Let's see this action. A man who, we're talking about aging like fine wine. This guy's maybe at the top of that list. Here he is.
Look at him.
It's just, it's so impressive. He's coming up on, I believe this is his 99th consecutive major. I believe the U.S. Open will be his 100th consecutive major played. Isn't that amazing?
And it's crazy. It's, he talked about it a couple weeks ago, just how he's able to, first off, stay healthy. Jordan Spieth spoke about Adam as well this week, saying, it's of course he's been one of the more talented players of his generation, but also just his ability to remain healthy, but also continue to evolve his game with the technology and how these players are hitting it so far. But Adam Scott is not only still competing, where he's had chances to win this season, but it feels like he's not done contending at major championships and potentially could add that one more. Guys at this point in their career, when you think of players like Adam Scott, you think of a player like Justin Rose, they want to find just that one more major. I think Adam and Justin would totally be fine with their careers if it ended today, but that both of these guys have the ability to still win another big one. And it's interesting too is that Adam's ball speed. I know we're looking at I know we're looking at wedges and short irons right now, but Adam comfortably, or maybe not comfortably, but he's able to get up to 190 ball speed on the range, which is crazy to think about at 45 years old. I would fall over trying to get to 190, but it just speaks to how, first off, his mechanics have always been something that everybody has, every teacher, every PGA of America instructor has always pulled up the template of Adam Scott, side by side when you're getting a lesson with an instructor with Adam Scott, and you're like, all right, I want you to get to all these positions. And what that allows you to do is create effortless speed. Now, not everybody has that modern look with Adam Scott, who's 6'2", wide wingspan, right, long arms, which helps create all that power that he's able to generate with. It seems like some of the smoothest action in the world.
I talked to him a couple of months ago about essentially the question boiled down to how are you hitting it so far at this age, and how are you increasing the ball speed? I think a lot of it had to do with just thinking about his lead knee, like just kind of getting more flexion there. And obviously, it's a level you'd understand far better than I would.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to think about the ways he's still kind of optimizing a swing and an action that's been so fluid and so consistent throughout his entire career. At the Masters, I thought it was interesting. Rory was asking in his pre-tournament presser, where do you think the next place is? Like, of all the majors, where do you think the next one will come? And he correctly predicted, I think it's going to be easiest for me to win here at Augusta National again. For Adam Scott, if he does win a late career major, is it Augusta National, place he's won before, or are there other venue fits where you say this actually might suit him better if he's going to get to pick a second one off?
I think he can win it as he's you could balance there. Adams about fell over. I think Adams capable of winning at any major championship. There isn't one to me that sticks out any more so than another. His game is fit for them all, but I think. Trevor Immelman's been somebody, of course, one of the best voices in golf, very intelligent, and has also been helping him with his golf swing.
Yeah.
And just his overall game as a good friend of his and somebody that used to be a playing colleague back in the day, but now serves as part of the Adam Scott team and just helping him with his ball striking and putting at times. And interesting enough, one of the things that they've tried to work on in his putting, of course, with the broomstick, is getting his left elbow to work more up and to the left. And so if you're somebody that uses the broomstick,
I might be pretty soon here.
I thought that was something that was interesting. And, I'd of course love to see Adam Scott back with the blade putter back when he was a young whippersnapper out here. Even Jordan Spieth talked about, the putter that he uses now is because of Adam Scott. It's the one that Adam used when he got out and was winning Players Championships. And I just thought that was a good piece of information.
Isn't it funny just the longevity of a guy like Adam Scott, where there are guys out here on tour that have looked up to him for most of their career, and now
He
they're
was my favorite player, man. If I got who's your
That's
favorite
something.
PGA Tour player? It was Adam Scott and David Toms, and of course Tiger Woods. But it's because of the way Adam plays the game. He's got one of the best golf swings in the world. He dresses well. He treats people the right way, and it's always been a great role model and one of the best spokesmen of the game. And I think anytime Adam Scott speaks, it comes from a place to where he wants to speak, honestly and open. And I think he views the golf game the correct way. And who wouldn't want to be Adam Scott?
Oh. he's been a huge part of shaping the future of this game at board levels, policy board levels, future competition committees, and so it's cool to see a guy like that. I just can't imagine how some of these guys do it, where they're balancing playing elite golf with also making sure the future of the game is in good hands. So let's keep going on the trend of just swings we love watching with Tommy Fleetwood. And I feel like the last time we were here broadcasting with a similar setup, we had a group of European fans behind us singing, Tommy, Tommy, Tommy,
That's right.
Tommy, Tommy. And here he is, Tommy Fleetwood.
Well, he's a player that shot 62 twice here back at the BMW Championship 8 years ago in 2018. And what do you know? Another player working on the pause drill. And Tommy's, I think, of course, he's played well here before. How do you not win a golf tournament shooting 62 twice? He did it on
insane.
Friday and Saturday, and really, he technically really didn't contend on Sunday, which is wild. But it was a shootout that week. It was a soft golf course, and Tommy's a player who's, his putting has been something that's been a little inconsistent this year, but still Tommy's gonna be a guy who's gonna be on the top 20 of the leaderboard no matter what, because of his level of consistency. He's so accurate off the tee. His iron game has been something that's improved a bunch, and also I think too, this is something that probably not enough people talk about, is that there is an elite player in the game that doesn't pitch the golf ball well.
Mm-hmm.
And Tommy Fleetwood is really one of the most underrated chippers of the golf ball. We always talk about his accuracy, but when you go look at his strokes gained around the greens, he's an excellent pitcher of the golf ball, and probably a big reason for that is that he leaves it in the correct areas because of how much control he has of the golf ball. So that definitely plays nice into the scrambling stats. But I think for Tommy, it probably comes down to the putter this week.
And we're looking at a drill where he's got that cutoff finish, and obviously this is an iron. He's hitting it, more full. But how does that sort of translate? We see him finish like that quite often, and you're thinking about controlling spin, flighting balls with the wedges particularly. Talk about Tommy's approach wedge game a little bit, and the shots he's going to have to hit here this week at Aronime.
I think you just need to start watching Tommy Fleetwood
That would
hit short
help.
irons.
Couldn't hurt.
Instead of your hands finishing over your left shoulder, we need to have your hands finishing, your right. Just
Smiley,
watch.
you can roast swings later, all right?
But man, he finishes, with his hands low.
Yeah.
His right arm is across his chest, and the club is vertical to the ground. It's just the best way to have the most control of the club face and keep the ball flight low.
Okay, look, 2 aiming sticks here. Talk to us about what he's working on. I guess he hasn't addressed the ball yet, but I assume the aiming stick further left is going to be just in front of where his stance is, and then he wants to. Is that further aiming stick meant to kind of keep that club head inside a little bit, just kind of deliver it from the inside?
Yes, the club head, or I should say the alignment stick above the golf ball, is definitely hitting it more from the inside, and then of course the alignment stick on his feet is helping him with his aims. But really, what it does, it just helps, create a tunnel and a train track. And it's a great way for people to work on their aim. I think aiming is a learned skill. It's not something that is just natural for some people.
So it feels like it's directed right at me.
Well, no, it's directed at me.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who always tends to aim right when I get to the golf course because that's more comfortable for me. But if you could start your baseline for what straight is, it definitely helps you, especially for somebody like Tommy. Let's say his pattern is a little bit more of a draw than a fade.
Mm-hmm.
If he's lined up dead square and neutral, and he's able to go to dead square and neutral and just change ball position, and if anything, just think a little bit more fade through the ball. That helps him get to right hole locations. Versus if he's out there all day, aimed too far to the right, and all of a sudden now he gets to a right hole location, let's say the 5th hole, a par 3, where he's got to hold something into a right to left wind. Well, if he's aimed too far right, he's going to have to shift his path so much to the left, and if anything, it gets too swipey. So what these guys are doing, trying to create, calibrating themselves to what square is every day, is just, it's so important for them.
Tommy's going off a little bit less than an hour from now, 1:43 p.m. on the first tee, Eastern, of course. A couple of names in that group, Smiley, that I'd love to talk to you about as far as their course fit. And the first one is Chris Goddard, now ranked 10th in the world, and a guy that, as we're profiling this course, can bomb it and can play well out of that rough. And when he's putting well, he's putting great. Is this kind of a candidate to win this week? I mean, it's hard to say he's not, but where does Chris Goddard land in? He's a perfect course fit, or he should be in the mix with all the other bombers?
I think he's excited to be here. This guy grew up. It's a South Jersey guy, not very far away, so he's going to be very comfortable with just the grass conditions, and I think he's going to have a ton of support this week with friends and family coming out.
He could have been the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mount Rushmore too.
With Chris, he reminds me a lot of Dustin Johnson. His just ability to feel like the moment's not going to be too big for him. And Chris he's built to play in big time events and be able to compete and play well. But his golf game's just talent wise, it's so elite. For him, it's can you go out and hole some putts? Because his game is plenty good enough to win out here.
And we saw Bobby Mack on that slide as well. A little bit of frustration in his last major start at the Masters, but a guy that played great at the Ryder Cup and played great coming down the stretch in the FedEx Cup last year. And this year, not like it's been a ton of bad results, but just maybe not as much of a continuation of his form that we saw at the end of 2025.
Yeah, I think it's a really good grouping, really. I think all three of these guys can feed off one another. The temperature's been a little bit warmer, really just from sitting here on the range.
Are you cold? I feel a little bit cold.
No, I've actually felt pretty nice out here. It's nice and cozy.
Glad that one of us is.
you see the sweater off, at least for Tommy Fleetwood. It's I think this is a good grouping for these three.
I'm trying to see, because obviously Tommy at the beginning of the year had no logos. He needs to replace. He's got a hat logo, but is that an Aronimink quarter zip vest? and follow-up question: where can I get that?
So I don't think you get access to that pro shop like all these players do. But if I know you well enough, you'll find your way back here post PGA Championship.
All right, Smiley, here it is. It's time to roast someone's swing that is not mine, thankfully.
Or celebrate.
Or celebrate. That's right. This is a good new segment we're workshopping here. Roast or celebrate. So let's take a look. As soon as it comes up here, we can get right into it. Let's see. Text us your swing, and just a reminder, it's 564-999-8248. I think is that the Las Vegas Sphere in the background there, Smiley?
Oh yeah.
This guy's got some good action.
We're not roasting this golf swing.
Okay. What do you like about it?
First off, it seems like he's on plane. The camera angle is not perfect for me to really get too technical here with him. But as we slow it down here a little bit, golf swing gets a little bit too long. Maybe just a little bit, just like the wrist angle is like getting like pretty granular here. Maybe just a little bit less. Cocking the right wrist at the top, maybe just a little bit straighter with your wrist at the top. That'll help, not have that club head bounce out of the top to where it gets a little bit late sometimes. But it seems like when he's, I would guess, let's call him Dan for not knowing his name. Dan, if you're able to keep your hands a little lighter, you can keep the ball striking really nice and crisp.
Las Vegas Dan, congrats, good swing. We also maybe next time we need to send a tutorial on how to shoot these down the line videos for the people here. Well, just a couple more minutes left, Smiley, and as it was the case yesterday, we're once again going to hand off to Alex O'Loughlin. She's going to keep things rolling here at the PGA Championship Range Show, powered by T-Mobile. But lots of action still out there on the range, and man, I can't wait to get out there and walk some of these holes, see what it's like in the afternoon.
It's so interesting, to see. Looks like about there's 39 players within 3 shots of the lead. So it's a jam-packed leaderboard in this early wave. 3 under par is currently the leader. Minwoo Lee just made bogey at the 8th hole. But it's a good mix of players that hit it long, players that are accurate, and maybe a little bit more precision. And there's a couple top names up there like Xander Schauffele and Jordan Spieth, who are a couple shots back.
All right, quick one on the way out. 2:05 p.m. Scottie Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose. Give me your score prediction, because Scottie Scheffler first round score has been a big talking point this year. What do you think Scottie shoots in his first round today?
Scottie Scheffler, let's go 300 par 67. Fitzpatrick, I think we'll go.
I'm not on cam, so I'm not seeing the 6
we'll go 1 under par for Fitzpatrick, and Justin Rose will go with a 1 over par.
Okay. I like that. Okay, well, here's what you got to look forward to in this next hour here at the PGA Championship Range Show, powered by T-Mobile. Alex O'Loughlin taking over. We're going to see a little video inside the ropes with Minwoo Lee, who's off to a hot start here, doing one of his practice rounds this week. And then there's a Philadelphia Phillies legend who's joining Alex here. I hope it's a Fanatic.
I know it's Ryan Howard. He was one of my favorite baseball players, so I'm really excited about that.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's what we have to look forward to next here on the PGA Championship Range Show, powered by T-Mobile. It was great hanging with you today, and come join us right back here tomorrow at noon. We're both looking forward to it.
Excited. Good fun day.
How's Minji?
She's good.
Yeah, solid?
She's taking a month off and then US Open in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
It's driver or mini. It just, we want to always cover those, but it's more run out if it gets down, because it
is down today as well.
And the fairway chases away a little bit.
Right.
I think it'll be okay today because it's more left to right, because it's 3. But like if it gets straight,
But wind wise, where's my right and left? It's 209.
Yeah, your right is over this middle bunker, the right bunker, and your left is basically the left half of the green sort of thing. Like where the pin is now, almost. So you see the
driver's fine today.
Yeah, today.
And I got room left.
Correct.
Hold. It's close, eh? Oh, kicky.
That's
Yes, yeah.
It's close.
Oh, hold on. That's okay, I think.
It's very close. Do you
Yeah,
want me to mini or
that was on the left side of the bunker.
Okay, then it's a good chance.
I changed gap wedge shaft and sand wedge shaft, and hit it like handful times. Just I went to my iron shafts because I had real soft shafts in them. I kept this lob wedge, but
what do you got on lob wedge like?
Modus
Like
Modus 120S. So those were in my 55 and
Okay, so
and so now I'm
were
on
you
X.
turning them over a bit?
Yeah, a little bit. What's my 95 with this? It is soft 3/4.
soft 3/4 is not
95. Yeah, I like this. Close. Last week it was like there was a lot of slope, and I felt like it was nearly harder to pick out slope because, well, one, you can obviously see it, but just the ones that are, yeah. Smoked it too. That was 6 feet past. You can't use putter.
No, I don't think so.
Unless it's a hybrid thing.
I think it's too high for a hybrid.
I know. Yeah, because you got to go straight down. Hold on. It's on the right side. The good stuff. Fishing's so nice.
That's so much fun.
It's so good. Something about it, just like it's like nature, but like exhilarating a little bit too. You know, like I feel like if you're like 1 or 2 yards short, it will stop.
Yeah.
But if you're like a little bit shorter, yeah, it can maybe kick up. Go. Go. Oh, close. hit the bowl, mate. You just need enough room to chip, you know? Like these ones are tough because it's like,
It's such a small
yeah,
shot.
yeah.
And you can't.
This.
Yeah, like no, to actually chip it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You got to do like, you got to go.
Yeah, I mean, and it's gonna just come out hard.
Yeah.
A great first hour again from Smiley and Charlie. If you are just tuning in, this is our PGA Championship Range Show powered by T-Mobile. I'm Alexandra, joined by Ryan Adams, and we got to do this at the Ryder Cup, so it's great that here we are again with best players in the world, and we get
Super
to
pumped,
dive into some swings.
Yeah, really excited for this, and I'm going to be doing the Telestrator today. Really excited for that too. We got a great swing. I think everyone's going to love. So
I think I might have an idea who that is, and we've also got our leaders coming in, leaderboard going on. I liked seeing some of those names like Bud Cauley up there, but let's talk #1 player in the world.
Yes.
And he's kept that title for a while.
Yes.
So what do you see about his swing, and what are you liking?
yeah, Scottie Scheffler's swing, obviously coached by Randy Smith, who's a great PGA coach. And I'll dive into the Telestrator here. Let's get right into it. So if you can see Scottie's swing here, obviously set up for his natural shot shape, a fade. And I'll go through here kind of how he plays that fade, right? So we have ball position, and you can see I'm making a little bit of a trail here, all the way up through that middle cut of the fairway, and then he's aiming right there. So you can see, Alexandra, how that fade is going to happen, right? So he wants to avoid missing to the left, right? Because everything left here on this hole is going to be a problem, right? So he's going to play that natural fade. And as we go back to the top here, so that was a little bit fast, but that's not normally how fast he swings. So we'll go back to the top here.
And it's so interesting too, because what we had said about his golf swing was you do really have to hit those proper points in the swing for everything to add up.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I'll just go really slow here. So what we're going to do is see his backswing. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Got the Telestrator working. I'm not John Madden here, folks. So you can see here at the top, this is the main thing I want to talk about today with this is Scottie's backswing. And a lot of the times the attention goes to his feet, right? But the most important thing that people can learn from at home is his backswing because he's making a full turn. So I want to focus on here at the Telestrator is we're going to highlight certain sections of where you can use this kind of as your base at home when you're working on your turn. So first up, right here, chin underneath shoulder. That's the most important thing. I think that means your back is facing your target and you're in a full turn, right? And so a lot of the times amateurs don't get all the way back. They might not even be able to get their chin underneath their shoulders. So it's important that that's kind of like a key marker. When you're on your backswing, you want to make sure that your chin's underneath your shoulder. And then I'll also point out this part. See if we can get this to, yeah. So you see the crease in his pants here? So that means that he's got that coil going too, right? And so if you have the coil going, that's another marker of that you're making your full turn, right? A lot of the times you won't see that pant crease in amateurs' swings. They either go the opposite way with a reverse spine, or they don't even make a turn at all and they just kind of flail back or sway left and right. So I like that part of Scottie's swing too. And then the last part, this bottom foot. A lot of times people will go up onto their toes or kind of move back and forth. And what I like here about Scottie's back foot is it's nice and stable. It's like a post and he's rotating around the post, right? And I think Randy's probably implemented that in him since he was a little kid, obviously, because we know what comes next. That foot moves quite a bit, and we'll kind of show that here. You can see it just moves right out of the frame, right? And so it's important as we go back to, yeah, so all the way through, we go up to the top. Even as he comes down in the swing, you can still see that foot is very, very solid. But I'm going to clear out here, and everyone knows this part flips out of the way. And that's okay, right? Because he's swinging his swing, and I think when you look at his swing, you might see a little bit of yourself in it. You might feel like, oh, I kind of do that too. I know that my dad, when he goes through impact, he used to play hockey, so he kind of goes through it a little bit. I'm like, oh, you want to keep your feet stable, but this is the #1 player in the world, and he's moving his feet too, so it's not the end of the world. So as we go up to the top again, I'm going to go really slow right here. Actually, I mean, you want to talk about impact right there. So you can see it coming through, bam, playing that fade all the way up and then right there, it kind of comes out of the screen and starts to fade and go over the bunkers, right? So we'll go back here because I want to show this part too. So maybe the last part I want to talk about with Scottie's downswing. So transition. He comes down here, boom, 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 and you can see here. We use the target again. This that left part of his hip. He's going to come. He's going to come out of that a little bit. And you can see it clearing out, right? A lot of the times that hip will go at the ball. But with Scottie and a lot of the best players in the world, the best swings in the world, that left hip clears out. So a feeling that you can feel at home if you're listening to this is like someone is tugging on your belt loop to the left and you're trying to open up those hips so that by the time you get back to impact, bam. That's right where you want to be, boom, right down the middle, right? Sometimes if you don't clear out that hip, it goes at the ball. And that's when you can kind of get stuck behind a little bit or you can get into some trouble. So Scottie, obviously, you know, the shuffle is the biggest thing that people see, but there's a lot of solid fundamentals in this swing. We talked about the top with the turn, coming down, clearing out that left side. And then although the feet shift out of the way, right? Swing your swing is the ultimate lesson from him, I think.
Swing your swing, and I think some of the most important things in the golf swing and playing on the course is recognizing those patterns. And if you can recognize the patterns and you can keep your consistency, you're golden. You can do what Scottie does, which, you know, in top fives in 4 of his last 5 majors. He's coming off 3 consecutive runner-up finishes. I mean, talk about consistency. That's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think the consistency comes from hitting the same shots, especially when it matters, right? So I talked about the fade, showing how he starts left of his target and how it fades over. He plays that shot all the time, right? If he started, well, this is the day that I'm going to start to hit a draw, right? Like maybe not at the PGA Championship. I'm sure Randy would say that too, right? Like, let's not try something new here. And I know that he's obviously had not quite the best year that he's normally had. You know, obviously, he's won once at the Amex, but I think that when it comes to Scottie, he just does what he does. You obviously see that with his feet, and it's led to a lot of success. So excited to see what he does this week here at Aronimink.
And only with Scottie Scheffler can we say it's not his best year when he's already doing as well as he's doing.
Doesn't apply to everybody with that. Yeah.
All right, I love that. That was our T-Mobile Telestrator that allows us to bring in-depth analysis. Thanks to T-Mobile's 5G network. Ryan, thanks so much. We did a Ryder Cup. Here we are again.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
Scottie Scheffler, very exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to head back over to the range to see more players gearing up for those afternoon rounds. We'll start to see more players finishing their rounds and coming to the range. We've got Colin Morikawa. And now on the show, we are going to welcome in Ryan Hager, who is joining us, a PGA of America golf professional. Very excited to dive into some of these swings. You came in from New Jersey, Plainfield Country Club. Great golf course. I was telling you, I got to check it out a few years ago.
Yeah, and quite a few kind of connections with the club here. The director of golf where I'm at used to be an assistant professional here, Scott Paris, and I've been fortunate enough to play here a few times. I know it's a tall test. It's never been a major championship condition, and even on just a normal day, it's a tough golf course. So it's going to be pretty demanding this week, I think.
So what was the start of your day like? I know you got to go see some players on the range, walk a little bit of the course. What are you seeing? What are your first thoughts?
Yeah, I spent about the last hour walking around. I talked to a few of the coaches. I think it seems like scores are surprisingly high so far. Some of the interviews and stuff like that sounded like it'd be a bomb and gouge type of test, but the course is certainly holding up, and we'll see if that changes maybe this afternoon with the afternoon wave and it maybe drying up a little bit. But so far it seems like you kind of have to keep it in the fairways. The rough's pretty penalizing, and I think length will be rewarded, but you do have to keep it in play.
All right, well, let's take a look at Colin Morikawa, who's on the range. What do you like about his golf swing and just how he's handling himself?
Yeah, I think over the years, it sounds like he had a bit of an issue with kind of losing his fade. I heard him say that in a bunch of interviews, and it seemed almost like a random occurrence. The last year, his play has improved, a little setback with an injury, but I think largely that's due to kind of him finding his patented tight fade that we're used to seeing. With the driver, maybe the fade's maybe a little bit bigger, but his iron play, the ball just kind of falls to the right. There you can see him and his coach, Rich Sessinghouse, probably just kind of dialing in some rhythm and getting ready to go play. Looks like he's got 15 minutes or so before he tees off.
And we've talked about sort of the difference between a Wednesday and a Thursday practice session. Obviously, he's got round one of a major coming up. So how is he spending those last 15 minutes? You know, we see him with the driver, but what is he focusing on?
I would imagine he's about as far from technical as you can be. You know, he's got a TrackMan there, probably just gathering some distance data. You know, with the weather being cooler today, it's going to be hotter in a few days. He wants to know how far the ball's going. Outside of that, you know, no alignment stick down. I'm sure he had one earlier, but he's probably trying to get more into hitting shots, seeing and visualizing his ball flight. His coach there is a tremendous mental coach, so I imagine they're kind of trying to get him regulated emotionally before he goes and tees off. That's, I think, generally best practices as you're headed to the first tee. You're not really thinking about, you know, what your wrists are doing or any technical thoughts.
And we've got some of his numbers here as well with the top tracer. What are you looking at? What do you like?
I'd say like a flat cut like that, you know, you can see the visual of what the ball flight looked like there. I think that's going to stack up great. I'd say modest ball speed. You know, it feels like 180 is the line in the sand these days for, I guess, fast versus slow. I don't even know that 179 is going to be considered slow by anybody. But 173 is not exactly, you know, near the top of the ball speed ranking. So I think at that speed, you better see the flights look like you see right there. Those can basically be gathered up in a hula hoop where those landed. So he's tremendous when it comes to hitting it on target. And I think, you know, with that, hitting it 282 in the air, that'll probably be enough to shoot a decent score today.
And just what you were saying about weather and temperature, we had temps in the 50s this morning. We saw Bryson show up in a big puffer coat, which, all right, Florida guy, so we get it. But it does play a role in especially those carry numbers. It is going to get a little bit of a heat wave over the weekend. So how are you adjusting? And you mentioned the TrackMan. How much of a difference will we see in numbers?
I would imagine you'd see a pretty significant increase in how far the ball is going to go. Significant. I mean, that could be 3 to 5 yards perhaps, which at this level and the precision that's needed, especially around a golf course like this, where I think the sort of pockets on these greens where you have to hit the ball to end up close to the hole, I think those 3 to 5 yards are going to be pretty critical. So with it being in the mid to high 80s on Sunday, I think this sort of the questions and answers that the players are going to be faced with are going to be a little bit different, and some of that's on the caddy. You know, I think the players obviously are going to be using ball flight monitors to check their numbers, and then the caddies have to make sure that they know exactly kind of where they're calibrated going into each round.
You mentioned the greens. Even 2 yards out here, you are going to be in a very different quadrant than you may expect to be or want to be. How critical is it going to be for these players just to have consistency there? You
know, the style of course and the designer Donald Ross is very similar to what I'm used to. The club I work at is a Donald Ross course with similar sort of slopey, undulating surfaces, and you can be made to look quite silly, I think, if you're off by a little bit. So someone like Colin is probably a good candidate for, you know, a pick for this week, because his iron play is so precise. He's going to hit, well, he should hit a lot of fairways. And so I think, you know, a precise iron player is probably going to do pretty well this week. but being off by the slightest margin makes a humongous difference. So you're going to need a little bit of luck. You're going to need to have studied, and your practice rounds, and I think largely you've got to be on top of your iron play and your approach play.
Well, let's take a look at Justin Thomas. Father is also a PGA of America golf professional. Golf is in the family. What do you think about his season so far? What to expect? Is this a guy that you think could secure another PGA Championship victory?
I wouldn't be terribly surprised, largely because of what I was just saying. I think iron play is going to be such a big deal. He's a great iron player. He seems to have, some momentum right now, and has been on an upward trend as far as his game goes. So I think if he gets some of those good bounces, like I was just mentioning, that things could go pretty well for JT this week. He works on some kind of interesting stuff. It's kind of unusual, I guess, when you look at what most people work on in their swing. He seems to like feeling the face get pretty open. He's got those patented kind of high arms at the top, but plays with a much more sort of soft club face as he gets to the top of the swing, which I imagine allows him to really release it, not have to worry about holding it off or anything like that. But after coming back from injury, I think he's had a couple of good finishes this year, and if he keeps it in play off the tee, I think he could be a threat this week for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned just having that momentum. 6 months away from competitive play. He's now got a few tournaments under his belt since then, which obviously just getting that competitive edge back and being back in professional golf is going to help. So I'm not ruling anyone out.
Definitely not.
Especially on this golf course.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the length, I think, to do well off the tee. I don't know the extent of his recovery and whatnot. I imagine as you come back from an injury like that, there's probably some hesitation you've got to work through, some maybe discomfort, and whether he's 100% or not. Sometimes there's like a little mental fatigue there as you make your way back. So as long as he's feeling mentally sharp and everything's gone according to plan with his recovery, I think JT should do well this week. The course should set up pretty well for him.
And JT's got a great pairing for today that we'll pull up here for you. There we go. Cameron Young, Keegan Bradley. Keegan, last one here at Aronimink, 2018 BMW Championship. Cameron Young also has a PGA of America golf professional father.
That's right. And I guess New York City and Philly wouldn't consider each other locals, but being from the Northeast, I'm sure he's at least played golf here, I would think, if not an event or two, so maybe a little more comfortable as a guy who's probably playing his first professional tournament here. Obviously on a heater, world ranking speaks for itself, and has been pretty much doing everything right recently, so there's no reason Cam Young shouldn't be a favorite this week. Keegan, he's I don't know how old he is now exactly, but as a Ryder Cup captain, he's obviously getting up there, and still just keeps at it. I think he's pretty darn consistent with the stuff he works on. He's a very well-rounded player, and I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he did great this week. So I do think this is a pretty strong pairing going off here in about 30 minutes.
And we're going to go back to Scottie Scheffler. He'll be looking to go back-to-back PGA Championship wins. What do you think about that? Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
If anyone's going to do it, it could be Scottie.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to pick someone, it has to be Scottie. He's good at everything. Drives it far. When he's on, he drives it straight. Well, on target. Maybe it's got a lot of curve to it, but it lands in the fairway. He's got a really creative short game, which is probably the most important thing in a course like this. No one's going to hit 72 greens in regulation. And honestly, if you hit all the greens, you're going to end up with some 80 to 100 footers with an insane amount of break anyway. So Scottie, with his touch, creativity, ability to hit all of the shots.
And this is his 156th consecutive week. He's been ranked number 1 on the official World Golf Rankings.
He's 300 more or so to catch Tiger. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't had a win since much earlier this season, so I'm sure there's a little chip on his shoulder with not having been in the winner's circle in a little while, but really nothing wrong with his game or any signs of weakness headed into this week. So I would look for a pretty strong finish from world number 1.
Just needs 181 more weeks to catch Tiger. And there we see Randy Smith, Scottie's coach, PGA of America golf professional. What do you think about Randy's style and approach to teaching?
I mean, there's a pretty good reason why guys like him and Butch Harmon have done so well, and I think they keep it beautifully simple. Randy's a very intelligent guy, but isn't going to overcomplicate what he probably knows about the swing when he's working with a player, and hearing the things that Scottie talks about that they work on. I mean, it's pretty straightforward setup stuff. He's got his grip trainer in his hands right now. I've never seen someone so kind of hyper aware of their grip at this level. And I mean, outside of the grip, his posture, just his kind of standard aim and alignment type stuff, it never really seems like Scottie's grinding very hard on his technique. It all seems to be setup driven. It's funny, on the range, Scottie always looks a bit different than he does on the course, and I've talked to people about that. I think the crazy footwork and some of the wild finishes that you see happen because of the different shots that he's got to hit that are maybe a little different than what you would be practicing on the range. I think he's got an insane set of hands, and Rick Smith's a brilliant guy for just staying out of his way, not making it any more complicated than it needs to be.
And we've got a good amount of training aids out on the range that we see each day. How important is that, and how critical just to maintaining and improving?
Yeah, I think training aids are helpful if a player is able to sort of connect with one. I think it can be pretty dangerous trying the training aid of the day, as an individual, and tinkering is never a very good idea. And so the training aids you see, I was walking the range earlier, and I saw Stuart Sink and his coach John Scott Rattan working on some stuff with this sort of foot wedge, and I would imagine that that's just sort of a daily ritual as they're on the range. I saw Patrick Reed doing something similar, sort of a wedge under his foot to work on some form of shift, and they were doing that in their warm-ups just now, getting ready to go play in the first round. So it's likely something just to sharpen up a feel right before they go play. You're going to see a lot of consistency from player to player with the training aids that they individually use on a daily basis, and I suppose no different right before you play, but you're only going to see a small dose of that, and then most of it just gets into like rhythm and visualization of the shots you're trying to hit.
We've got the top tracer back, just seeing more of Scottie's numbers, consistency.
Yeah, you've got to assume that's some form of 5-ish iron, maybe a 6 iron. Kind of a cool breeze right now, so maybe that's a 5 iron. I think an apex of 100 feet is pretty standard on tour. That's about the average. That's, I think, really helpful headed into some of these greens, being able to hit it up in the air like that. The ball will stop a little quicker wherever it landed, and I think that's part of what makes him such a great iron player. Is he can hit it high, but he also can. You can see this one's up in the air a little bit more. He can control his trajectory as well as Tiger used to, and I think that's one of his greatest strengths, if not his number one.
And we'll definitely be seeing how important some of those mid and long irons are as the players continue to finish up at Aronimink. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Really appreciate all your insight.
Of course,
and
thanks for having
have
me.
some fun walking around and getting to see the best players in the world.
Good luck with the next Ryan.
But we've had a pretty nice setup right here, getting to see everyone.
Yeah, it's a beautiful view.
But we will have my third Ryan on the show coming up next. Big thank you to Ryan Hager, Ryan Adams, who came on earlier in the show, and we are going to have an MLB legend coming up next. Find out who it is, but first, we're going to throw it over to my friend Amanda Balionis. We see her getting first talks with our PGA Championship winners as they're receiving the Wanamaker Trophy. Let's hear what she had to say.
Welcome to the closing hole at Aronimink. It is windy right now. We're expecting a little bit of rain, but as the weekend comes to a close, weather should be perfect, and we're expecting an incredibly strong leaderboard because this course, it is historic, it is pure, and it is difficult, and it's all going to come down to how guys are able to play these greens. The Donald Ross course, the greens are bigger than what you might be used to seeing. The fairways are pretty generous, but these greens are incredibly difficult. They are so undulating, and if you leave yourself off the green or on the wrong part of the green, big numbers can happen very quickly. When you talk about some of the storylines heading into this week, of course, one of the big questions, can Jordan Spieth complete the career Grand Slam? That would be an unbelievable story. Can Scottie Scheffler get into the winner's circle for the second time this season and successfully defend his title? Or is it going to be someone maybe claiming their very first major championship? We have seen that happen plenty of times at the PGA Championship. But what we do know is we have an incredible course in my home state of Pennsylvania. Shout out to all my fellow Pennsylvanians. And we have a lot of excitement for this week. So we cannot wait to see all of the drama. There will be plenty. And who will I be on the 72nd hole with come Sunday evening when the final putt drops to present them with the Wanamaker Trophy? I'll let you guys decide that one.
Well, now joining us on the show, three-time MLB All-Star and a part of that 2008 World Series championship team, Ryan Howard. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is great.
We needed some Philly energy in here, so you're bringing it for us.
Oh, no, absolutely. You guys can't come in the city without having somebody on the Phillies coming through, so I am so happy to be here right now.
All right, just walking over here, are you playing it low-key? Are people recognizing you? How?
There's a few trying to, but there's been a few, hey, big piece, Bay Rye, like all that kind of good stuff, so it's always fun coming back.
I love it, and I know you love golf.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me what it means to you and just how fun it is to be out here.
You know, this has been amazing. This is my first time out, so I want to thank, T-Mobile for bringing me out here for this. What an amazing experience. And I took up golf towards the end of my career. I wish I would have started playing more when I was playing because I was worried about my swing, but now I'm worried about my golf swing. So I got to get that figured out, but I enjoy it. I love seeing these guys doing their thing and just watching the game all around.
Especially just the athlete to athlete and the mental side of things. I don't know how much you've talked with professional golfers, but do you see similarities even with your golf game, what you can channel from being in the MLB?
You know what? Absolutely. I think on every facet as an athlete, when you're playing at that level, we all have that. And I try to translate it, from watching golf to what's the equivalent in baseball. And I know from when I'm actually out there on the course and playing, the way these guys make a 15-foot, 10-foot putt just look so effortless and so easy. I'm just trying not to three-putt, basically. But it's so good and so fun to watch how they go about their game and the strategy that they put in with the course management and everything that they do.
How has that been for you, learning course management and just those little details?
It's a work in progress. I'm still trying to learn course management. Sometimes I try to play hero ball instead of just, and then I got to take my medicine, but instead of just giving what the course is taking me and just play it from there. And
I know you're still close with some of those teammates from back in the day. What are their golf games like? Who's winning? I know you've got a podcast too. You're doing a lot.
Yeah. My man Jimmy Rollins and I have a podcast, 611 podcast, which we've been doing a lot of fun stuff with. Golf wise, we've got some guys that are some sticks. Chase Utley's pretty good. Jimmy, I feel like plays every day. Shane Victorino, same thing. I feel like he's playing every day. Cole Hamels has got some nice game as well. So I'm just trying to get up there with those guys. And the sneaky pick is probably Jason Worth. So like we all try to get out there and put some some golf groups together and see what we can do.
And I just briefly seen a video where you were kind of talking about angles, pitching and baseball. So how detailed do you get with your golf game looking at those angles?
I need to get more detailed in my game, and so hopefully the T-Mobile can help me fix that with their technology. It's been a work in progress, but it's so interesting now in looking at it baseball wise. I didn't really use as much of the analytics. I was a very feely hitter baseball wise, and I feel like I try to do that with golf, and I need to probably get more into the analyzing my swing a little bit better to really be able to understand how to hone it in.
And I know you're lefty, so that kind of narrows down the field of who you probably look at and try and model off of.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Akshay Bhatia, who we'll show some footage of too. So are you looking at those players and trying to compare?
I'm looking to try to see what I can try to take and see if I can make it work for me, because when I'm watching what they do and I'm thinking that I'm doing what they're doing is two completely different things. So definitely want to watch their games, watch their movements, their actions, and try to see how I can incorporate some of that in my game.
And that is so true. Sometimes what you're doing is not always what you're actually doing, and that's why it is important to film your swing and check it. And we actually have some of your golf swings that we get to show and look at. And man, you've got some power over there, which I should not be surprised by.
No,
but so we're going to tease that and come back to that a little bit later. But just to get you excited there.
I am excited for that.
Where are you playing your golf?
So I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So I am currently out at Cherokee Town and Country Club over there. So try to get out there and play as much golf as I can.
Pretty competitive with your rounds? What are your groupings like?
They're pretty competitive. I'm still a work in progress. So trying to put some good rounds together. Try to play with guys that are better than me. So it continues to motivate me to get better.
All right, so you're going to have some fun walking around and seeing these guys in person.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're going to be pretty excited, though, to get back out on the course.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you get to watch these guys in their element, just doing what they do. It's going to be fun.
And then you're going to be over at Club Magenta coming up. What can our T-Mobile subscribers, what can they look forward to?
Oh, man, we're going to go over there. We're going to have a good time. We're going to chop it up. We're going to watch a little golf. We're going to talk a little golf. Probably talk a little bit of baseball, but I'm going to talk more golf because we're at the golf course today.
I mean, where else are you going to be able to talk and watch golf with Ryan Howard? This is amazing.
No,
all right,
is
so
great.
definitely a place to head over to later is Club Magenta. How about Scottie Scheffler, number one in the world? We were looking at him earlier. I mean, talk about an athlete.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's one of those guys he's at the pinnacle of his game. It's fun to watch because his game is considered unorthodox, right? With the foot movement and his swings. Maybe I need to try that. I don't know. But it's when he's going and he's clicking on all cylinders, you can never count him out. It just seems like, he hasn't necessarily got off to the Scottie Scheffler starts of old, but he seems to find his way in when you're looking at that leaderboard, people are getting nervous because when Scottie kind of gets on a roll, it's fun to watch, and it's also scary for the competition.
And we've got some incredible golfers that would have, how you'd say, unorthodox golf swings. Is that similar to maybe in baseball where you can get away with being the best and you're slightly different?
Well, I would assume in making the comparison with baseball, right, you can start with a different stance. You've got people whose hands are really high, people whose hands are really low. But when you get into the loaded hitting position from a baseball standpoint, everybody's hands pretty much get to the same place before you start to hit. Or start your swing, I'm sorry. But I would assume in golf, when you're doing that, there's got to be some type of similarity to where everybody starts to get into the same hitting zone before you strike the ball. So there's definitely those types of similarities there.
That is very similar, and we talked about it actually a little bit earlier in the show, that it's just all about hitting those key spots. And if you can do that, anything in between, that's where you can show a little flair, I guess.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
And now we've got Top Tracer on Scottie. We're able to see some numbers. What do these numbers mean to you about some of the speed and you remember back in the day when you were throwing?
I'm trying to figure out how. I'm still trying to figure out how to use the ground to generate more speed, like how these guys are doing. So that's one of the things. My baseball swing was very, very easy and smooth. It was almost like the opposite, right? Where it was like less is more. The smoother, the more relaxed I was. It just seemed like the quicker. So I would assume and hope. I try to translate that to my golf game. Doesn't necessarily work out right now, but we're gonna get it figured out.
All right, guy like Scottie, our other players on the range gearing up to tee off for the second major of the year. Mentally, what were you thinking about going into World Series? What do you think they're channeling?
I think it's just when you're going into something like this, it's just trusting your preparation. This is where out on the range or batting practice, what have you, that's where I'm working on the craft. That's where I want to get the feel for what I want to do. And then it's just a matter of going out and executing my game plan. So the same way with these guys, understanding, either through the practice rounds, taking their notes, going back, dissecting it with their team. And then now it's just on the range, you're getting warmed up. You're getting loosened up. You got your game plan, trust your game plan, and trusting your swing and locking your swing in for you to go out and go have a good round.
A lot of similarities I'm seeing between baseball and golf. Now, talk about the rest of the day. You're going to head over to Club Magenta. Is there any specific players that you want to see? Are you just excited to be out here and check it all out? First and foremost,
I'm excited to be out here. I'm a fan. Obviously seeing Scottie and Rory, some of the usual suspects out there, but just everybody. I mean, the ability of all these players out here to even have qualified to make the cut, to be able to come out here and play and just watch them. I like to try to take it in from everybody and try to see if there's just one thing that just clicks for me where it's like, oh, you know what, that's cool, that makes sense. Like, maybe I can try that or implement that. So definitely open-minded out here and trying to take in as much info as I can watching everybody play.
What are you working on in your game right now?
What am I not working on is probably the question.
That sounds like you might have too many things you're focused on.
You know what? My driver and I have been at odds. We don't have the best relationship right now. And so we've got to have a talk and get back on the same page. I mean, iron game, my scramble game is nice. I will scramble the jets and we'll find a way to the green. But right now, the driver and I, we've got to get on the same page.
How about those Philly fans out there? What are we going to expect from them?
Oh, the Philly fans.
Woo!
Will be civilized. They will be civilized here. They know how to act over here. So it's going to be fun. I think once you get down to Sunday, and I think if it's tight, like you'll definitely feel the energy from the fans for sure.
What was your highlight moment in your career when you look back?
Wow. I mean, there's probably 3 that I would go to. I mean, obviously winning a World Series in 2008. I would say my first hit in the major leagues, and then my first All-Star game in Pittsburgh was in the Home Run Derby, was being able to share that with my son and winning the Home Run Derby and sharing that with him. So I'd have to put that up there.
I mean, all those home runs you had. Is it you get one and it just kind of keeps happening?
I mean, you just again, it's just about the process of preparation. So, for me, it was just everything I took in batting practice. I looked at it as batting practice. You'll have a lot of guys that try to hit home runs in batting practice, but I just wanted to kind of groove my swing so that it was ready for 7 o'clock, as my manager Charlie Emanuel used to say. You got 5 o'clock hitters and 7 o'clock hitters. Like, which one do you want to be? So I just always try to groove my game and my swing for 7 o'clock and just try to put a good pass on it and let the rest take care of itself.
And for those at home who are also getting excited to play some golf, we have the opportunity for you to text your swing in. So you can see that number coming up on the screen. Tell us where you're coming from. Take a video down the line, vertical. Give us your name. And we'll give it a little bit of analyzation.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting. And here we have yours.
All right, talk to me.
You remember this day?
Oh, I remember this day. I remember this day.
All right. I first just want to start with that power you have.
Mm-hmm.
When you take it back, that's incredible.
Okay.
That's really, really good. What would you say your direction is off the tee? What is your miss pattern?
Usually, I will. Sometimes I'll get a little bit I'll overcook it, and I'll go a little draw over to the right, little bit, and then if I block myself off by not fully rotating my lower half through is when I kind of get that miss off to the left. So just fully making sure I rotate through and just try to be easy with my swing.
Because strike location really is king.
Yeah.
That's what matters. I'd say if you're working on anything, I'd work on where you are with your wrist angle at impact. You're just going to get even more power from that, which is going to be amazing.
No, I'll take that.
I don't even want to know how far you're hitting it off the tee already.
Once we get it all dialed in, we can add a little bit more distance to it.
All right, I love that. Thanks so much for joining us,
Thank
Ryan.
you so much for having me.
Have fun over at Club Magenta.
Will do, for sure.
Everyone watching live, Ryan Howard heading over to Club Magenta. If you're here on site, make your way over there. All right, thanks so much, everyone. We've got some more special guests coming up to our PGA Championship Range Show powered by T-Mobile. Look over at Cameron Young. What a great season he's had so far. A player to watch here at Aronimink. Father David Young, PGA of America golf professional, was out at Sleepy Hollow and now is spending his time with his son out on tour. Now, one of the biggest keys this week will be the par threes, and the first one players see is hole 5. So we sent out Aronimic's assistant professional Tessa Teachman to give us a scouting report. So let's take a look at that.
Hi, I'm Tessa Teachman, assistant golf professional here at Aronimink Golf Club. We are here on hole number 5, a short par 3. Distance about 171 yards for the championship, and it is the shortest par 3 we have on the golf course. I love this hole because it's either a birdie opportunity or you are going to be fighting to save that par or bogey. We're kind of along the perimeter of the course, so wind can play a factor here when you're selecting your club from that back tee. When I'm playing and looking here, I'm always trying to figure out what is that front distance to the green, and from there, usually if I can land it on the front edge, it's going to kick towards the hole. So as we approach the green here, we can really see that there's a lot of shouldering around the edges of these greens, and it only kicks forward, it kicks off the sides, and on the back edge here, it even slopes away from you. So we describe it as kind of a bowl. We're trying to really find the correct distance to land the golf ball so that it kicks and slopes towards the hole, depending on that pin placement. You know, watching these guys hit shots in here, it's a big green, they're hitting a short iron, they're likely going to hit the green, but being in that right section where the green and the shoulders of the green really kick the golf ball is going to be super important. You might even notice even some players, if they don't hit the right distance where that ball will land and it never really circles back to the middle, it almost kicks further away from the hole. So that club selection is going to be incredibly important, and then figuring out what's the safe play or how aggressive you want to be trying to get that ball close to the hole.
Tessa, thanks so much for joining us. I know you've been able to walk the range and see everything in action because we are at your course, Aronimink.
Yeah, welcome to Aronimink Golf Club. It's definitely a different campus than I'm used to, but it is sure fascinating to be around.
How different does it feel just seeing all the fans, all the players?
There is an awesome buzz, just so much more excitement and hype around coming onto campus and seeing the best in the world here do their thing.
Speaking of best in the world, we've got Justin Rose on the range using those new McLaren golf clubs. Just tell me what you think about his game. We know he likes Philadelphia, one down the road at Marion. He says he feels at home, which is great. So what are we seeing him do on the course, on the range, that you think matches up nicely with Aronimink style?
So, you know, he's had success here at Aronimink as well. I mean, he He got into a playoff here, and I hope those vibes continue to follow him. He seems like a super easy guy to pull for and root for. It'll be interesting with the new irons in the bag, kind of how they treat him, but he's so accurate, and you know, so many of the guys have been working on controlling their distances into the greens here, and really the defense being those greens of where those slopes are. So with previous experience, I think it's going to be handy for him to be able to take it out to the course.
Distance control, spin control, we know those are all going to be important. Gil Hans said second shot golf course, but let's also talk about if you miss the green, what can we expect from some of those chip shots?
Yeah, I've spent a little bit of time over the short game area and on the course this morning, and it's truly incredible to watch the players working on their craft and hit these delicate little soft shots. The time on the course this morning, I was seeing a lot of flop shots, a lot of big swings, open club faces, and some speed to get through that rough. And when you're short-sighted with these greens, it's you have to become creative and really kind of pay attention to the pockets of the greens that have some slopes to be able to land those chip shots and get the ball to actually stop. Some have executed very, very well. Some have hit some shots I've hit out there as well, which have backfired a little, but that's part of the game.
And you mentioned hitting out of the rough. How about just in the first cut around the green too? How's that going to differ in style?
Yeah, so the every green we have here has a nice little opening. So definitely there's some strategy in leaving your shot maybe in that opening so that it's a friendlier lie. That rough can be brutal in places, especially around the greens. I know our agronomy team has been working their butts off, and a little bit of sunshine's helping that grass continue to grow. So it's thick, and it's thick at the root of the grass. So it requires a lot of bounce and a lot of just skill being able to manage that club face through the strike.
And on those approach shots, how many opportunities are there to run the ball up if you wanted to? You said there is a little bit of an opening, so how often will we see those players doing that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the hole. We do have a little bit of elevation change. You know, we always describe the golf course as kind of a sink. There's the perimeter holes that are higher up, and then down to the middle of the course, it's a little bit lower. But there's a fair number of holes where you can use that front area to either bounce it in or run it up. And some spicy pin placements out there. So I think it really will depend how they're trying to attack and what angles where you can use and utilize those run-ups.
And we've also got Top Tracer for Justin Rose, where we can take a look at some of his numbers and what he's working on. We know that's going to be important, getting dialed in right before teeing off. So what's his mindset right now on the range? What's he working on?
You know, you can see he has the alignment stick down, and also he has his launch monitor as well. I think just before you go out and play, it's really just getting in a good mindset, positive mindset, seeing some solid strikes at your target, going through your routine, staying very, very present and consistent with that routine. He's really well known for those kind of rehearsals and pre-shot waggles. Just trying to create that feel to be able to reference in the swing. I always describe it as kind of getting organized before you make the stroke, and you can see it here on the range. He's going through the motion just as he would on the golf course before he strikes each golf ball. I love the alignment stick down. You see so many of the guys doing it. I encourage all of my students to do it. We have alignment sticks on the range 24/7. If you're not using them, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. It's cheating. Let's get aligned correctly. Make sure ball position's good.
That's something I was going to mention as well. For those at home, there's just no reason if you're hitting balls on the range to not have an alignment stick.
Yeah, it's the simplest tool out there. I mean, up here in the Northeast, we use them to mark for snow as well, and luckily we don't have to worry about that here, but use it to your advantage. They're there. Get really good at aligning, really good at ball position. Those things cure a lot of problems in golf swings. And if these guys are using them, your average player can certainly use them too.
And they help prevent some of those mistakes that can come from not using an alignment stick. Just talk about too how your body can almost adjust subconsciously.
100%. You know, your brain and your mind's eye knows way more than where your club face is pointed when you start. So just making sure everything's in line. You know, I always use the head, shoulders, knees, and toes at the beginning of my clinics and lessons, and it's like those are so important because then you start compensating, and that's the last thing you want when you have a pressure shot to compensate when you could just easily be aligned better and be able to make a more confident swing.
Leading up to the PGA Championship, what holes here on site were you excited to see these players play and get through, just so you could kind of get an idea of how they're viewing that hole?
Yeah, I think the par threes here are spectacular. You get a little mixture. You got some longs, you got some shorts, and those green complexes are really defending the holes for us. My favorite hole on the golf course is hole 11. Depending on that pin placement, there is a treacherous hill that might pull that ball right back down to your feet. So I hope to spend some time there. And even this morning, I spent some time sitting behind hole 8 and hole 10. They're side by side, almost sharing a green, and just watching how the players are reading the greens and trying to get to some of these hole locations is really cool, because we've been there, we've hit the shots, we've all missed the same putts, and I'm so glad that the course is defending itself a little bit.
Now we've got Nicholas Højgaard on the range, also gearing up for Aronimik. I like this. He's a little bit casual right now.
Much more so.
Setting the game plan. Very interesting to watch. What is something that viewers at home might not be able to see about the golf course, but is definitely going to be something to look out for if you're playing?
So actually, I've been super impressed. I've watched a little bit on TV when I've been home too. I can't get enough of it right now, and certainly some of the views I'm seeing, I'm like, man, is that Aronimik? Is that the course I'm at every single day? So I think it's showing really well. But when you're here in person, you can really see how much the edges of the greens slope off and how much more shape and undulation these greens really have. We don't have a ton of elevation, really. Like we said, the perimeter of the course, getting out onto it, you'll see some hills, but it's the thickness of the rough. It's the location of these holes to be able to get to them from the right place in the fairway. Hopefully it keeps drying up out there. We had a little bit of rain last night, but the firmer and faster it gets, the more specific players are going to have to be with leaving their approach shots into the greens.
Now, who are some players that you like to look at and take some inspiration from for your students?
I always kind of go to the range and say, hey, I told all my students before this week, go to the range, watch them practice. Go to the short game area, watch them practice. And just not the quantity of golf balls they're hitting, but the quality of shots they're hitting. Like we talked about with Justin, it's like the alignment sticks down. He's going through his routine each and every time. I think everyone has their favorite golf swing and favorite player they want to pull for. And I'm like, go watch them. Go see what they do really well. These are the best players in the world. I love watching Adam Scott's swing. It's one of my favorites. You can't go wrong with watching how Scottie gets the ball around the golf course. There's so many good players that I don't think necessarily one person in particular. You can learn so much from each of them and what they do well.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Tessa. Looking forward to a great few days watching the best players in the world take on Aronimik. All right, more special guests coming up on our PGA Championship Range Show powered by T-Mobile. Huge thank you to Tessa Cheechman for joining us, part of the Aronimik golf staff here. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've had a big day. You've got your students probably waiting for you out there.
There's a couple of them probably out there wondering where I am.
I love to see Bud Cauley's name up there.
That's
that
great.
was super exciting to see. Give us a little bit of an insider look at what you thought he did great today.
Well, Bud's been swinging it really nicely lately, and just a couple little things we've worked on have really started to click. He's really playing well. The golf course suits him. He's a super iron player, really good driver of the golf ball, got a great short game. So the golf course suits him because he likes to hold shots up against the wind. They come in a little softer.
I got to play with Bud in the WM Phoenix Open Pro-Am. It was fun to see you guys kind of doing your thing, and I thought it was very interesting to see how it wasn't technical out on the course. I know you were observing a lot, taking in information. What's your style, and then how do you implement it?
Yeah, if there's some real important things we need to get done, we usually get those done at Jupiter Hills. And then here it's reminders, it's double checks, it's little things that we work on. And we've been working together for quite some time now, so it's pretty easy to kind of just nudge him in a certain direction when he gets off. He's a super player, really smart player, and got a great golf swing.
All right, then coming up the next few days, day one wrapped, how do you kind of move into round two, and what do you focus on?
Yeah, so we'll get a recap of what went on out there. You know, a lot of times at situations like this when a guy's swinging at it really nicely, it's not a technical thing. You know, it's, hey, it was a situational thing. Wind was off this side or that side, strategy type thing. It's usually not something technical when they're playing this well. So it'll be a check-in when we get finished, and with the other players too that I coach, it'll be kind of the same.
And what's that homework like on your end when you go through stats? What are you looking for? What's most important?
I'm looking for trends. You know, was there a miss in a certain direction? The caddy fills in a lot of that picture for me. You know, it's really hard for us to see stuff, obviously, when they're playing in this type of situation. We get a lot of that done, as you saw in Phoenix during practice rounds and stuff. And you notice little tendencies and things. I'm pretty sure I'll get a decent recap from Bud. I'll get an even better recap from Matt as caddy. And we'll put the pieces back together and go back out and fight again tomorrow.
And not just professional golfers, you're out there helping. Hannah Gets Good, you were on YouTube, episode 1.
Yeah,
what was that
was
experience like, and how was that?
Hannah was great. She's such a good athlete. It's a lot of fun to be with. So it was a really good time. I really enjoyed being with her. I texted her the other day just to check in to see how her game was going. So yeah, I was excited to do that for the PGA of America and also to help Hannah.
How do you alter your teaching style from amateur to professional? What's that look like going back and forth?
I always tell people, you know, it's like I say the same things to amateurs that I do to professionals. The professionals can just do it a lot faster, you know. So I don't have a style or a method or anything. It's just kind of old school golf coaching with a twist of technology here or there.
I mean, the professionals might be able to do it faster, but that margin of getting better is so much smaller, which makes it so much more difficult.
Very true.
So what's that like when you already have the best players and you're trying to get them better?
Yeah, you're just trying to bring out the best in them, trying to find those small little nuggets that they may be missing, whether it's, you know, like Bud and I've talked a lot recently about tempo in his golf swing. I mean, that's, you know, just, we kind of lose it right a little bit when he gets a little quick from the top. So it's really simple stuff most of the time. You know, there's ground force reaction stuff we talk about, and you know, but that all gets done at Jupiter Hills and not here.
All right, well, this week is all about getting the ball in the hole, being an athlete.
Absolutely.
So we're excited to see your players, how they come out, and thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching our PGA Championship Range Show powered by T-Mobile. We'll have more special guests joining us again tomorrow, noon Eastern, here on our PGA Championship YouTube. We're looking forward to another great day. Round 1 of the PGA Championship underway.